My name is Andrew Davies, and I am Managing Director of Trade Counter Mate.
Very good. So, Andrew, I always start with asking people, I suppose, what life was like before Business Pilot in order to give us a comparison, the sort of before and the after. So I wonder if I could start there and just say, what were you doing before? What was your process? What were the challenges, I suppose?
Well, we're a relatively new business in that we were founded in 2019. We're a family business. So my father was involved, and then another gentleman called Eugene, and I started down in Swindon in 2019, just before COVID. And it all started going, pretty well. And then they were shut down. And what happened? They were just using a spreadsheet to begin with, as you can imagine most businesses do or do when they start up. And then they moved on to admin base. And when I joined the company in 2021, that's the system that we were on. Well, when we started, that's what I took on and started using, and became quickly apparent that there had to be a better solution out there. And at that point we only had one branch. So we started the new branches over in Sussex in 2022. And at which point we were using Admin on separate. We sort of had different accounts for each branch. So that wasn't working very well. And then we went to Fit Show. Must have been it's about a year and a half ago now, and saw you guys there. The rest is history, as they say. So that's that's what happened really. We're only sort of 4 years old. It was a spreadsheet, then it was admin based, and now it's Business Pilot, and we've been using Business Pilot since about July last year. 1st of July we came on. Yeah.
And I mean, you talk about that conversation at the Fit Show. I remember it very clearly because you guys have been sort of key drivers for our group and branch system, really. Without you guys, we would have always got there, but I think you've definitely helped us get there a lot quicker. And so we're definitely grateful for that. That's for sure. Okay, so I suppose what's the difference between what you were doing then and what you're doing now? What would you say the key benefits are, or what are the differences?
The big difference for me personally, as the sort of a group salesperson, is that the leads area is fantastic, basically, and to manage that process from the point of contact through to the call, sending the first email, and then setting yourself a task to follow up a week later or whatever. That whole process is seamless, and one feature which I particularly like is the templates and sending the emails from within Business Pilot. It takes me maybe 30 seconds, from hanging up the phone call. We've got the template ready to go. I'll top and tail it, and then I've sent it, and it appears in their inbox with a lovely logo on it as well. I like that as well. I think it looks very professional. And that whole thing, and then setting another task, that takes a matter of moments, and that so we use Gmail. It obviously syncs quite very nicely to Gmail as well, and Google products in general. Is fantastic, because it's all about efficiency, of course. And rather than having to copy and paste an email into a Gmail and then attach something, you can even attach stuff from within Business Pilot too. So that whole thing is hugely beneficial to me. I can just rattle through a whole load of my tasks. I'm setting myself follow-up tasks, of course. They all appear beautifully on my dashboard each morning. I get the email as well. So all of that stuff's great. I love the fact that I can have multiple tabs open on my browser. Wasn't able to do that previously. So I can have, as everyone does these days, work, has many tabs open, but it's nice to have, I've got that conversation going. I need to do this, I need to send that invoice. I need to do that purchase order, whatever, I can have all those things open as I do right now. I've got about 10 different Business Pilot tabs open, all things I need to do right now or today, and that's very handy to be able to do that. So that functionality is great. And obviously the way it's all, it all works together, doesn't it? From that, it's all about that contact record.
Yeah.
and the notes obviously follow through to the leads, the documents follow through to the contracts. It's all part of one thing. I love being able to go onto a contact record and seeing how many quotes we've done, how many live leads we have for that one contact, and then obviously how many contracts. Like flick between those two tabs.
Yeah.
At a drop of a hat, I know obviously what we're converting, and how important this customer is and how much we've done with them and all the rest of it. So that's really good from a sales perspective. So yeah, those are for me the key benefits of those sales bits, which are so important. I hate the thought of not being able to follow up or forgetting to follow up, but with Business Pilot, you don't forget those follow ups because you get the as long as you remember to set yourself a task, which I do, then you'll get that nudge, a few days later. So that's really important.
I mean, it's always fascinating for me, and I smile as people are talking because I realize that you're just skipping over some really key features because they've become everyday to you. So imagine a system where you can't set up. We obviously in the system, as you'll know, we call it status progressions, and you can map out your process exactly how you want it to be with automations attached to it, so it might automatically spring up that you've got to set a task or send an email. So all these things, and to hear you just sort of talking about them as though they're just normal, when actually they're not normal. They're just normal to us. And
absolutely.
And that's the bit that I suppose always, that's what drives me. It's those things where we're able to make installation companies, obviously for you guys, Trade Counter, but more successful by being more efficient, looking more professional on the other end, and just putting in those tools.
So absolutely.
I mean, you went straight. You can always tell when I'm talking to somebody who drives their business. They don't just have a business. You drive your business. You guys, what you're doing, where you want to go, and you're driving it forward. When you've got that kind of, I suppose, personality type, and I'm aware of this with myself. I'm very driven, but I'm also consciously aware that sometimes I drag people with me rather than bringing them with me. So I always want to bring them with me rather than drag them. And so I suppose it's all exciting for you getting this data, but how have the rest of the team taken to you bringing Business Pilot in?
Very well, actually. As because we're on a different platform before, which was harder to use. The whole thing has been a fairly seamless transition. There's been a few flies in the ointment, let's say, just in terms of getting people on board, in terms of doing stuff properly, mostly with regards to purchase orders and how we want to do things like that, and also how we keep the records in terms of making sure people populate all the key things, emails, numbers, and all the rest of it. But that's just the historic thing. Going forward, it's been well, training new starters on the system has been pretty easy. They pick it up very quickly. There hasn't been any resistance at all, really. As I said, we're a relatively young company, and we are trying to do things a little bit differently. Another key thing, which I didn't actually mention that I love, is that we try not to print anything at quote stage. Okay, so we, in our Swindon branch, there was, when I first joined the company, I went into Swindon and there was just paper everywhere, filing cabinets, all the rest of it. And now with Business Pilot and with two screens, we don't need to do that. So we've got the survey on one screen, we've got the quoting software on another screen. All of that stuff's done digitally. Obviously, it's then sent to the customer via email or via Business Pilot. But crucially, those quote documents and that survey is all saved within the live lead. So immediately, we're obviously saving paper, we're saving time, we're not printing stuff. We're using DocHub to edit documents if needed, to adjust pricing and all the rest of it. So I'm trying to, instill a culture of, sort of digital first, let's say. I'm a bit different, Elton, and I've come from a media background, a digital media background. So I'm looking to, create a culture that is sort of, more digital first, but also we're also quite sales focused as well. So with all those things in mind, Business Pilot being obviously a cloud-based piece of software, that's very of the moment. I think it works on your phone. That's great as well. And also that helps me drive sales, and manage that leads process beautifully. The dashboards, haven't even got onto the dashboards yet, but the dashboards are fantastic, and we can see what's going on. I love we can see the number of leads, because what's great now is that with all the branches on one system, there's a bit of a competitive culture, coming to the fore, especially now that things are starting to take off quite excitingly in the new branches in Sussex. So all the guys can see the figures, we can see the number of leads added, okay, we can see the conversions, and we can see obviously the sales, and that is brilliant, because although we've got 4 branches and you can limit each user to only their own branch, we've actually set it up so that everyone can see everything. And obviously we can filter the data according to the branch if needed on the grids and stuff. But everyone can see all the numbers going through, and that's creating a competitive culture, which we're also loving as well. So no, that's another. I think those are the key benefits, really. The fact it's very digital, and it's we're a new business, so we can create this way of doing things from the outset, rather than historically trying to implement it, or because a relatively young team, they all know what we're doing on the computers and stuff. We can do all of that, and Business Pilot is a perfect aid to that process.
So we were really clear when we were looking at all of this that we didn't want to build a system where you could only use digital, because there are people out there, let's say you've got a phenomenal sales guy who's approaching retirement, has always done things on paper. You're not going to get rid of that person just because they don't want to use a system. So we were always keen that you could integrate both. However, the number of stories where people say, we just barely use paper anymore. You can print out lead sheets or, survey sheet. You can print it all out if you really want from the system. But actually people don't. So, and it's interesting that I think if we'd have taken that away and said, look, no more paper, then I think we would have got a lot more resistance. But in reality, people are using no more paper, but they're making the choice. And I think that's really interesting. So
it is, it's good.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, because of the volume of quotes we're doing as a trade counter as well, we're doing somewhere in the region of 300 to 400 quotes a week at the moment, which is obviously great, but that could be a lot of paper, if you know what I mean. So and just be able to obviously because it's quite a fast paced environment, so to be able to get those quotes out quickly, get them onto a system, but then crucially when they walk in, we can just tap in the reference or their contact name, and there it is. It's all there. The documents are there at the top of the hat. We can print it off very easily if needed, just to go through stuff with a pen or whatever. But no, it's just as a system for organizing ourselves. It's really good, purely because of that volume of quotes that we're getting through.
So we've spoken a lot about the system, and that's easy because we're both digital guys, really. So therefore, it's we're comfortable with systems. Another thing that's been key to me, and you see it when we're trying to push things like Business Pilot community and so on, is that it's really about the people. I never wanted this to be just a piece of software. I wanted Business Pilot to be an organization that helps the industry to be more efficient, to be more profitable, and so on. So therefore, I always ask in these calls how your interactions with our team have been, because that's where it starts. You'll have spoken with support, no doubt, training, of course. How are those interactions?
Mostly very positive, Elton, I have to say. We can be. I imagine we have been a fairly tricky customer at times. We have a particular way of invoicing things, so our finance requirements have been a little bit challenging at times, and the two Ryans have been very helpful on that side of things. So on that side, it's been great, and we've been working with you to develop the branch system, and there's still, still definitely a bit of work to be done. I'd love to be able to set
100%.
branch targets. It's something which
Yeah.
I'm going to be sending an email about quite soon, because currently we can only do salesperson targets. So it'd be great to have a branch target thing. And I'm sure the branch development bit is only in its infancy. And, I think with dashboards there's a lot of potential on the dashboard side of things for the branches. But then from the outset, we were dealing obviously with yourself, and then it was Rebecca, really, who was just fantastic, to be honest. And we had remote training across the branches, which is obviously the best way to do it when we've got 4 different locations. And she was, everyone, I know she was just very, very good at what she does. And, the sessions were very clear. She obviously knows the system incredibly well. And that really came across, and nothing was too much trouble. All questions were answered in detail, and the structure that we followed, because we don't use the diary bit, we don't use the scheduling bit, because we're not installations, so we don't really need those sections, and most of our customers come and collect from us. So for us, it's all about the live leads, the contracts, and the purchase orders, the ordering side of things, and going deep into those bits was fantastic. Sadly, I haven't been able to make any of the open days yet, which I'm really sad about. I almost was able to make one in Birmingham. I was really keen to make one in Birmingham last time, but
we've got 5 coming up this year. We're going for more regionalized. So we've got a Bristol, we've got a Birmingham, London, so Manchester, Newcastle. So yeah, we're
great.
I'll be keen for that. Around.
I was keen. I'll try and get to the London one then this time.
Yeah.
Bristol is quite close to our Swindon branch, so keen for that.
Yeah, they're really good, and I do say, the more training you get, the more you're going to use on the system. And equally, there's different. We've all got different sort of personality types. Some people will permanently explore. They've just got that curious mind, and therefore they'll find their way through the system one way or another. But others, actually, they need to be shown areas. So there are different people, and different things work. But
for sure.
But it's good. Look, I'd never say to somebody that Business Pilot is a complete system. Because it'll never be complete. There's always new things to add in, and we rely on things like you saying, actually, I'll tell you what we could do on this dashboard. That would be really good. We rely on that feedback, because as all of us, people who are using Business Pilot, chuck in more and more ideas, actually, that helps us to drive it forward. And we never want to stop. I think that's the biggest issue with software, especially when you get focused on one sector. It's very easy now. There's thousands of people using Business Pilot now every day, which is great. And it'd be really easy to just say, well, why do we need to do any more then? People obviously love it. Why? Because then you become, your yesterday's news.
Yeah, sure.
So actually we want all those ideas to help us to keep driving forward, making a better product, to make sure it remains that. If you are now with somebody this evening and they said to you, look, we've just signed up to that Business Pilot, you guys are with them, what would your advice to them be on their first
steps? In terms of if they were just thinking about taking it on?
No, they've already signed up. And they're just about to start their Business Pilot journey, as it were. What would you say to them?
Okay, I'll say book in, a good 2 to 3 hours worth of training with Rebecca or Arwen, who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting with yet. But definitely do that training from the outset, so you're starting properly. If you're not doing anything half-heartedly, you're learning all that. There are a few ways of doing things. Is probably a correct way of doing things. So I think having that understanding of the whole system from the outset is really important. I think make sure that your contact records are this is one of my things, I'm a bit anal when it comes to just, having good, clean data.
Yeah.
So, and because it all starts with that contact record, even if it's just a cold call or something, that could lead to a sale. And if you've got all that information populated from the outset, because that's all going to appear on an invoice, hopefully. So let's just start from the top and do things properly. So I'd say, do that. Make sure you enter clean data correctly, and probably have a good look at your training area, actually, because there's a lot of great information on the knowledge base.
The knowledge base.
The knowledge base section, which is really good. There's some pretty good videos as well. Found that pretty helpful as well. But those guides, you've got on there.
We're just about to we are not about to, we are already completely transforming that whole section. And we've set this goal for this year as the world's best training department. So we've got some really good stuff, but how do we take it to the next level? And I'm so excited by it, because we're saying, if we were going to win an award for our training department, and we were going to win that against every other blue chip out there and so on, what would we need to do? How good would our training need to be to win the world's best training department? And so there's some fantastic stuff coming down the line. And, like you say, lots of people already think the training's really good, and it is really good.
It is.
But we're not satisfied with that. And it's the same with the product. The product is really good. We know it's really good, but we want it to be better. We're just getting started,
Sure.
And, so
that's good. A special mention for Katie. I haven't mentioned Katie as well. She's also really good. She comes back very quickly, which is great. I do love the little support button down the bottom there. That's a pretty cool feature. You've got a great team, Elton, and they are very, very supportive and quick to respond, which is crucial, obviously, when we need stuff sorted.
No, that's really good. So is there anything that you think, I'm surprised Elton didn't mention? So is there anything else that you think we should mention for anybody watching, or do you think we've probably covered the main areas?
Yeah, I think so. Probably. I'm thinking, I made a little list here. I think I've covered everything. Haven't really touched on the dashboards, but just the MI section, which I do really like. I think, I sort of have, we use the sales one, we use the leads and people one, but the products one is sort of very interesting. And then, but for me, the best one is actually the ops dashboard, because I can also, at a glance, see sort of those key numbers, which I really like. I could flick between the branches to get those key numbers, which are obviously orders, invoice sales, debts, and that's about it really. Those are sort of the three things I'm always looking at, obviously. And having be able to see that stuff at a glance is fantastic, and then to be able to click on a button and get the actual report for the breakdown is also very, very useful. So I think you can tell I'm quite a big fan, Elton, Business Pilot. It does make our life a lot easier. But that's it. The dashboards are particularly useful. So that's the only thing I think we haven't really spoken about, but I've just spoken about it. So there we go.
No, that's really good. Different type of person now, somebody who's looking around to improve the way they do things in terms of a CRM or a system. What would you say to them?
I would say just get on board with Business Pilot. It's I've used a number of CRMs actually in slightly different industries, totally different industries, and having joined the window industry and seen a few others and just not been that impressed. Having worked now with Business Pilot, it's been a no-brainer for us. And I think it's definitely helped us grow. It is helping us grow. It's exciting to be working with a company that's also innovating all the time. And because we were one of the first people to take on the branch network side of things. That's also it's great to be working with you guys closely on that. So I would highly recommend it to anyone thinking of doing it. You know, it might obviously be a cost that you haven't considered in the past, or would consider, but it's worth. I think it's actually very good value for what it gives you, and it just means you can. Well, we run our entire business on Business Pilot, you know, so from cradle to grave, it's all there, and you know, it's just the first thing we look at, you know, and it's the final thing that you close down at the end of the day, really. So no, it's obviously it's essential for us.
Wow. I really appreciate that. And you know, there's a reason I asked for the honest, authentic feedback, because that's who we are. That's our culture. I really appreciate the things you've said and your time. So thank you.
Thank you, Elton.